Chapter 13 Aurora. A hush fell over the crowd as the Aurora was announced. All games, performances, and interactions stopped dead. Everyone turned to look at the sky, so Sorrel followed suit. A beautiful tinkling sound filled the air, like sparkles and chimes. They slowly intensified until a loud bell tolled, and the soft neon glow bloomed in the sky above them. Sorrel glanced aside to see Ruene's reaction, only to realize they had been separated in the chaos of the festival. He did find Jazz and pick the kitten up so he could have a better view. It wasn't much better, since Sorrel was shorter than many of the people in the crowd. He decided to find a place to get a better view. He might be able to find Ruene there as well. As he hunted for some higher ground, a couple more musical chimes sounded, releasing different colored neon blooms in the sky. Sorrel caught sight of an old tower near the edge of the festival. The door was wide open, so he went inside and climbed the stairs. He was surprised no one else had climbed this spot yet. That probably meant he wasn't supposed to be there, but Sorrel ignored that thought and found himself a nice perch on the roof to finish watching the show. He made it just in time to see a soft green light bloom right above him, slowly expanding outwards to the edge of his vision. He wanted to be able to create beautiful magic like this too. He reached his hand out as if he could touch it, but it was probably an illusion in the first place. Sorrel stayed atop the tower until the end of the show, and watched the festival slowly pick back up again, but with a much smaller crowd. He used the opportunity to search for Ruene. There! Ruene caught sight of her and waved. She was nearby, so she needed to do was look up. Ruene! Over here! He called. She looked up, but not with the happy expression he had expected. She looked shocked and scared. Look out! He heard her cry from below the tower. Before Sorrel could turn, a pair of hands grabbed him and pulled him backwards, and another reached for the kitten in his arms. This was bad. Sorrel reacted on instinct, shoving Jazz into his magic pocket. Where did it go? One of the assailants shouted. Sorrel used the chance to get a good kick on the one holding him, and darted to the edge of the tower. He could jump, but he wouldn't survive. He took out some magical crystals from the day before and threw them backwards. It made the first two falter, but the group was far larger than Sorrel had expected. Did he have a floating potion? One. That could work. There was no going down from the stairs. Sorrel pulled out the potion while he still had the chance and downed it before going straight for a jump. He was close, almost out of reach, when he felt something grab his ankle. The potion wouldn't last long, and the attacker seemed to have figured out he was getting things from his vest pockets and tried to steal it from him. As if he would let that happen. It looked like Ruene's emergency was going to happen before either of them had expected. Sorrel ripped off his vest and threw it towards her down the tower as the assailants pulled him in. There was a metallic click as something cold snapped into place around his neck. One of them opened a portal and they began to drag him through. Seriously? Wasn't portal magic supposed to be lost or banned? This was cheating! But at least he could also make portals. They probably didn't know that. As soon as they left him alone, he would disappear. Unfortunately, the other side of the portal wasn't some desolate basement dungeon as Sorrel had been expecting. Dungeon, yes, but definitely not desolate. They didn't seem to be in a basement either. We lost the Kittica, one of his attackers reported as they tossed Sorrel on the ground before a man in what appeared to be his heavily armed personal guards. And this boy? The man asked. He was holding it. The man bent down to take a closer look at Sorrel. So he bonded with one. Impressive. He doesn't appear to be human either. Not human? What was that supposed to mean? No, this wasn't the time for that. Sorrel tried to fire the purple spark from earlier at the man, but before it even formed in his fingertips, an intense pain raced through him from the collar on his neck. It vanished without a trace the moment he stopped trying to use magic, but it left him a bit breathless. Quite the rebellious little thing, the man laughed. I'll buy him. He should sell well at the auction. The man's two guards lifted Sorrel up from the ground before locking him in a nearby cell as the man negotiated his price. The situation was far worse than Sorrel had thought, but he was glad he had been able to save Jazz. They wouldn't go back for Ruene, right? It had been a while since Sorrel had been separated, but it was difficult to move in the crowd, so Ruene impatiently waited. The Aurora bloomed in the sky, shining its light down on the crowds below. If only she hadn't lost him, they could have enjoyed it together. Once the Aurora finished, the crowds died down, and Rouene pushed her way towards the edge of the crowd. It might be easier to spot him if she wasn't surrounded by people. "Rouene, over here!" she heard him call, and looked up to see him waving, as well as two men approaching him from behind with clear evil intentions. "Look out!" she warned, a bit too late. Rouene watched from the ground in horror as Sorrel fought a group of 10 or more for freedom. They must have been following him for some time and tracked him to the tower. As his last desperate attempt was thwarted, he made eye contact before ripping off his vest and throwing it to her. She could only watch as the cloth fluttered to the ground. What should she do? Who should she tell? The authorities? She had a reputation for her wild stories, so they might not believe her. It was a long shot, but maybe the Beleus Guild? Sorrel had been getting special treatment from Cybele told. They might be willing to help out. After that, she could contact her benefactor. He would be very displeased with the news. First things first, she needed to be sure she could contact anyone. She ducked through the crowd and turned a few corners, just in case. Her heart jumped as she heard voices she feared might be coming. "Where's the girl? That brat had a girl with him, didn't he?" "Forget the girl. She was magicless. Not worth our time. Focus on finding the Kittica." Kittica? Was this because of Jazz? Now that she thought of it, they had been taking the kitten everywhere with them, carrying him in the open for everyone to see. She knew that Kittica were powerful magical creatures, but beyond that she didn't know much. Another thing to ask her benefactor. After some more careful turns, all deep within the remaining crowd, Rouene made it to the Beleus Guild. Thankfully it was still open. Rouene walked up to the nearest worker before her remaining nerves broke down. "I need your help," she told them, her tone filled with the panic she was trying to swallow. "Sorrel's been kidnapped."